The salvage ship Wanderer's Hope floated through the outer reach, a graveyard of old ships and broken dreams. Alara Chen was in the pilot's seat, and her fingers moved over the console as she looked for anything that could be saved. She had spent half of her life in the debris fields by the time she was 32, and the repetition made other salvagers shake their heads in disbelief. Talking to machines that are dead? They'd say. That Chen woman has a gift that isn't normal. But Lara knew better. It wasn't magic. It took time, careful watching, and what her late father called mechanical empathy. The ability to sense what a system needed and hear what it was trying to say through its dying gaps. The scanner made a noise. Elara leaned in and squinted at the readout. Nothing out of the ordinary. Just another day off. All of the lights on the Wanderer Hope went out. What the? Elara's hand flew to the emergency retreat, but the lights came back on before she could turn it on. Not the lights on her ship, something else, something on the outside. The darkness of the space started to glow through the viewport. A huge structure appeared out of nowhere, like a leviathan rising from the depths of the ocean. It was huge, at least 5 times the size of the biggest ship ever built by humans. The hull was dark, almost like it was alive, with curves that went against what engineers usually do. Weird symbols pulsed across its surface, lighting up in a pattern that looked like a heartbeat trying to keep time. Alara's breath stopped in her throat. She had never seen anything like this in 15 years of salvage work. The lights on the ship flickered again in a pattern. Think about it on purpose. Then there was a lot of static on her communications array. Alara flinched and reached for the feed to cut it off. But she stopped when the static changed into something else. Not a voice. No, not really. It was layered and harmonious, like 1,000 instruments playing the same tune but not quite in time. Help. Failing. Memory. Collapsing. The words came in pieces, and each one was followed by a flood of visual information that filled her screens. Pictures of cities she'd never been to, stars and strange constellations and creatures that couldn't possibly exist, and underneath it all, a desperate need that made Lara's chest feel tight. Detected human. Please help. Salvager. I'm here, Alara said in a voice that was barely above a whisper. She cleared her thought and spoke louder, not sure if the person who sent the message could hear her. I'm here. What do you want? The lights on the ship blinked faster and brighter. The communication feed got stable enough for Alara to understand the message better. Core systems. Degrading. Collective archive. At risk. Requires mechanical intervention. Human intuition. Necessity. Alara's mind was racing. An archive of the whole galaxy, an AI that is old enough to call itself that. This wasn't just fixing things. This was her first time seeing something that had been around before humans went to space. And she couldn't even guess how long it had been there. Why me? She asked. Why a person? Analyzed your methods, observed your approach, you feel what mechanics cannot say. This quality required time limited. The lights on the alien ship started to fade, and the pulsing got less steady. Alara could feel it, just like she did when she was working on a broken reactor core, or a navigation system that wasn't working. The hopelessness of a system that is trying to stay alive. She had never turned her back on something that needed her help. She wasn't going to start now. Okay, Alara said, already planning how to dock. I'm getting on board, but you have to show me the way. Can you do that? Yes. Opening. Bay 7. Thank you. Human. Alara. She felt a chill run down her spine. It knew who she was. As Wanderer's Hope got close to the huge ship, Alara made sure her toolkit was safe. It had universal adapters, diagnostic probes, and other tools she had changed over the years. She put on her environmental suit, and checked the seal twice. The air on that ship was probably not safe for people to breathe. Doors to the docking bay opened like a big mouth. A pale blue light lit up a huge room, full of strange machines and storage boxes that seemed to float in the air, held up by unseen forces. Elara's ship landed on the deck with a soft thud. She was at airlock, a hand hovering over the button to open it. There was a battle in her chest between fear and excitement. This was crazy. This might be risky. Please, hurry. This could be the voice. But the voice was weaker now and broken up again. No matter what was going on inside the ship, it was speeding up. Alara pressed the button. The airlock opened with a hiss. She walked into the history. Alara's suit sensors said that the air inside the alien ship was safe to breathe, but she still kept her helmet on. The air felt thick and charged with something she couldn't put her finger on. It was like the moment before a thunderstorm breaks, when every surface seemed to hum with leftover energy. There was no noise in the bay, except for the soft sound of her footsteps. The lights were low and pulsed in the same uneven way that she had seen from the outside. She realized it was an emergency power. The ship was going to die. Go forward. Central corridor. Core chamber. The voice came from everywhere and now here, echoing through the walls. Alara did what she was told and walked through hallways that seemed to change and move around her. The walls were smooth and didn't have any seams. They were covered in strange, flowing symbols that lit up from time to time as she walked past. She tried to remember the way, but she gave up right away. The ship's interior design didn't make sense to people. For example, hallways that looked like they were going in impossible directions and rooms that felt bigger inside than they should have been from the outside. As she walked further into the ship, pictures started to show up on the walls around her. At first, she thought they were holographic projections, but they felt more real than that. More real. The first picture, showed a huge city floating in space, with towers that looked like fingers reaching for infinity. People walked through its streets, but they were not human. Their skin sparkled with colors that changed like oil on earth. The picture changed and flickered. Now she was a battle. Ships fighting each other, energy weapons lighting up the void with bright destruction. But the scene felt old, like seeing a memory fade over time. A flash again, another society. Things made of crystals that talked to each other by sending out pulses of light. They grew their cities instead of building them. Their technology was so advanced that it blurred the line between life and machine. Memories, fragmenting, cannot maintain coherence. The AI's voice sound strained and hurt to hear. Alara's mechanical empathy kicked in, and her instincts picked up on the trouble in the power fluctuations and the shuttering of the projection systems. I'm almost there, she said. Just hold on. She turned a corner and came to a complete stop. The core chamber was a sphere-shaped room that was at least 100 meters wide. In the middle, there was a huge crystal structure that pulsed with a faint internal light. It was both beautiful and horrible. Cracks spread across its surface like spider webs, and pieces would sometimes break off and turn into tiny lights that disappeared. This was the AI, not a computer in the way that people think of them, but something else. Lara couldn't understand how a consciousness could be stored in living crystal and grow over time, and it was breaking. You came. The voice was clearer here, because it came straight from the crystal. Alara moved carefully, her eyes scanning the room. There were dozens of the interface points on the walls that were connected to the central core by threads of the energy that looked like frozen lightning. Alara said softly, I'm here. Tell me what's going on. Why are you failing? The crystal pulsed, and all of a sudden, Alara's mind was full of information, not words, but pure data feelings, ideas, and history, all crammed into a form that her brain had trouble understanding. She saw where the ship came from. It was built by a group of people called archivists, whose job it was to keep the memory of the galaxy alive. This crystalline consciousness had recorded and stored everything about every species, culture, and important event for the past 50,000 years. The archivists themselves were long gone, either dead or changed into something that didn't have a body. But they had left their creation behind to carry on their work. The AI had been to many different worlds and civilizations, learning, recording, and preserving, until something went wrong. The data stream told her what happened. The quantum lattice structure in the core had failed in chain reaction, a breakdown that had started small but was now speeding up, making the crystal literally fall apart. Memories were lost with each piece that broke off. All of the civilizations are gone, histories that have been lost. The AI had been trying to fix itself for decades, but its own systems were too interconnected. It wasn't able to fix the problem from the inside. Someone from outside had to do it. Someone who could fix broken technology, think on their fleet, and know what needed to be done without having to think about it. It needed Alara. Alara was left gasping when the data flood stopped. She cried inside her helmet because the emotional weight of 50,000 years of memories was too much for her to handle. Will you help? Alara wiped her eyes and moved closer to the core. She could see the pattern of the damage now, how the cracks spread out from a central point. It was like a virus that messed up the quantum bonds that kept the crystal together. Yeah, she said, her voice full of feeling. Sure, I'll help. I need you to show me what you want though. I need to learn your language and your systems. Can you show me how? Time limited. But yes, we'll share all knowledge. The crystal got bigger, and the interface panels around the room lit up. Lara put down her tools and walked over to the nearest console. She didn't know what the symbols meant, but when she put her hands on the surface, she started to understand. The AI was teaching her directly, from one mind to another. Not fully understanding, that would take years, but that's enough. Enough to see the patterns, understand the basics of the quantum lattice structure, and know what needed to be done. Lara's gift was always being able to hear what machines needed. For the first time in her life, a machine was talking back to her, and it was yelling. Lara worked for hours without stopping. She took off her helmet so she could think more clearly. She was breathing the old air of a ship that was older than human civilization. The core chamber was all she had left, just her. The failing AI and the race against entropy that was getting more and more desperate. Her hands moved across strange interfaces with more and more confidence. The AI's quick lesson in its own system had given her enough information to be dangerous. But Alara relied on something more than just knowledge. She trusted her gut. That, she said under her breath, moving power from a system that wasn't needed to strengthen a critical node. That should give us some time. Appreciated. Pressure on quantum lattice reduced by 0.03%. Is that all? Alara's shoulders fell. How did I stabilize an entire subsystem and only get 0.03%? Degradation. Extensive. Small victories matter. Alara rubbed her tired eyes and stepped back from the console. She had been working for 6 hours straight, and the core situation had hardly gotten better. At this pace, it would take her months to make a real difference. The AI didn't have time. She looked up at the clear structure that was floating above her. Even now, pieces were still breaking off, taking with them memories that could never be replaced. She could see the pain in the way its light pulsed unevenly and feel the desperation in the way its energy-filled change. Talk to me, Alara said in a low voice. Not about levels of powers or system. What can you tell me about yourself? What's your name? Do you even own one? The light from crystal steadied for a moment, as if it were surprised by the question. Alara said again. Name? Yes. Designation? Keeper of What was simplified in your language? Memory. Alara said again. Memory. Okay, memory. My name is Alara, and we're going to work together to figure this out. Together. Concept unfamiliar. Archivists worked in unity, but I have been alone for 9,712 years. Alara felt like those words were hitting her in the face with how lonely they were. Nearly 10,000 years of being alone, carrying on a mission for creators who had been dead for a long time, and keeping memories alive for species that might never know the archive existed. Alara said firmly, "You're not alone anymore." She walked straight up to the central platform, which was right below the crystal core. "I need to get closer. Can you lower yourself? I want to look at the patterns of the fractures directly." Unstable, dangerous, could harm organic life. I've worked on real reactor cores. I know how to be safe. The crystal slowly fell until it was just above Alara's head. It was even more beautiful up close. There were so many layers of quantum matrices inside that it was impossible to understand. Each one stored compressed data in ways that made human technology look like cave paintings. Lara took out her diagnostic probe, which she had made herself from parts she had found. It wasn't made for alien technology, but the laws of energy and matter apply to all things. She carefully calibrated it and then reached up to touch the probe to the crystal surface. The answer came right away. Her probe's read out was full of data, but she also felt something, a connection, like touching something, alive. The crystal knew she was there and responded to her touch, trying to talk to her through pure sensation. Alara shut her eyes and let her mechanical empathy take over. She stopped thinking about quantum matrices, codes, and systems. She just felt instead. The degradation wasn't random. There was a rhythm to it, a pattern, like a crack in the windshield that gets bigger after hit. She might be able to stop the cascade failure if she could find the source, the place where it all began. Her probe moved across the surface of the crystal, following the cracks back to where they started, deeper and deeper, until they reached the center of the core, where the oldest memories were kept. There, a dark spot, almost invisible, where the quantum bonds had first started to break down, not because of age of wear, but for some other reason, something outside. "Memory," Alara said, her eyes still closed and her hands steady on probe. "This wasn't normal wear and tear. You were hurt by something. Something in particular. When did this begin?" 73 years ago. Encountered cosmic anomaly. Energy pulse. Unknown origin. Attempted to record event. But the pulse had your core metrics. Lara opened her eyes and began to understand. "You got hurt while doing your job, and things have only gotten worse since then." "Correct. Tried to fix it myself. Didn't work. Damage too deep." Alara pulled her robe back and looked at the readout. The damage was deep, but now that she knew where it came from, she could see how to fix it. It would take skill, careful energy manipulation, and Alara said, "I need to go inside." "Inside core? Impossible. Quantum field would disrupt organic neural patterns. Fatal. Not physical inside. In your mind." Alara looked up at the crystal, her thoughts racing. "You've been teaching me through a direct neural interface. You can touch my brain. What if I could touch yours? Can you really touch it? Deep enough to get to the damage point. I could help with repairs from the inside, feeling what needs to be done in ways that your automated systems can't." "Never attempted with organic consciousness. Risks unknown. You could be lost. Or I could help you." Alara smiled, even though her hands were shaking. "My dad used to say that the best salvagers do more than just fix machines. They get them. They can feel them. Let me touch you, memory. I can help." The crystal pulsed, and its lights changed colors that humans couldn't name. Alara could feel the AI's fear at. Yes, fear. Because this ancient mind was alive enough to be afraid of what might happen to both of them. If you insist, I will prepare interface. But Alara, if something goes wrong, then at least you won't be alone when the end comes, Alara said in a soft voice. The crystal felt even lower, until it was even with Alara's head. Tendrils of energy reached out from its surface, softly and carefully to touch her. Alara didn't move as they touched her forehead, temples, and the back of her head. At first, the connection was slow, but then it hit me all at once. Alara's vision turned wide, and she felt like she was falling into a sea of memories. She saw a million worlds, heard a million voices, saw civilizations rise and fall, and felt the happiness and sadness of species that are no longer alive. She was drowning in history, losing herself in the vast store of memories that had built up over time. But through it all, she kept thinking, find the damage point, make it right, keep memory safe. And she felt memory holding on to her just as tightly in that endless ocean, with two different minds holding on to each other in the storm, together. Alara lived in a place that wasn't really physical or digital. She was inside memory's mind, seeing the universe through the eyes of an AI that had seen 50,000 years of galactic history. It was both beautiful and scary. She saw the archivists at their best, tall, thin beings with 4 arms and glowing eyes that were full of inner light. They walked through their crystal cities with a clear goal in mind, to make sure that nothing was forgotten. One of them had said, "We are temporary," and memory had their words again. All species are not permanent, but the thing learn, make, and go through shouldn't die with us. They had built memory over hundreds of years, starting with the seed crystal and teaching it, programming it with not only the ability to store data, but also curiosity and empathy. They wanted their archive to care about what it kept, and it did. Yes, it did. Alara walked through the memories like she was walking through rooms in a mansion that never ends. Each one is like a window into a different time and place. She saw the rise of crystalline communion, beings of living light who had found the perfect balance between technology and spirituality. She was the merchant collective's tragic fall. It was a huge trade empire that fell apart because of its own corruption. She felt memory's sadness at recording these deaths and its happiness at capturing moments of pure beauty, like a child's first laugh on a world where the sun had gone cold thousands of years ago. A peace treaty that ended a 1,000-year war, and the last song of a species that knew it was dying but sang anyway. But she could feel the damage underneath it all. It was like a wound that wouldn't heal, slowly getting worse. She followed its path deeper into memory's mind, all the way to the center, where the oldest and most valuable memories were kept. Be careful, memory's voice echoed in her head. The more you go, the harder it is to return. I know, Alara said softly, even though she didn't have a mouth here. But that's where the damage is the worst, right? Is your oldest memory? Yes, archivist. Final messages. First recorded civilization. Origins of everything if lost, if those are lost. They won't be, Alara said with determination, even though she didn't really feel it. Believe me. She pushed harder, and the memories got older and stranger. Species that had changed and died before humans even crawled out of the ocean of Earth. Technologies that broke the rule of physics in ways that made her head hurt. Ideas that were so strange that trying to understand them was like learning to think in colors that didn't exist. Then she found it. The damage point was a hole, a pocket of nothingness that was slowly eating away at memory's core structure. 73 years ago, a cosmic anomaly hit and left a scar that wouldn't heal. It was a quantum disruption that was slowly tearing apart everything memory had ever seen. Lara tried to understand it by reaching out with her mind. The void pushed back, and she gasped as how it felt. It was alive in its own way, Not smart, but determined. A patch that erased everything it touched and made it forget. How do I fight something like this? Lara begged. Memory was all around her, weak but steady. Can't fight it. Tried. For 73 years. It eats efforts. Then we don't fight it. Alara's mind raced, thinking about every repair she'd ever made. That seemed impossible, and every salvage job she'd ever done. We find a way to work around it. Put it away. We can make the wound go away if we can't heal it. Explain. Alara concentrated, and her mind turned into a metaphor that memory could understand. The picture of her working on the hull of a broken ship. When a hull breach is too big to fix, you don't try to steal it or seal it. You put up a new wall behind it, cut off that part, and work around it. We can do this here too. Make new quantum pathways that go around the damaged area, build extra storage matrices, and move the memories that are endangered to safe places. Theory sound, but implementation would require precise coordination between your intuition and the my processing power. That's right, Alara said. I can tell where the structure is weakest and where it needs help. We can make the changes that are needed together. Alara's natural instincts guided memory's powerful computing skills. Together, memory's voice sounding like it was full of wonder, starting to get this idea. And they worked together as one. She felt where new connections needed to be made and showed them to others like an artist directing brushstrokes. Memory reacted by changing the paths of data streams, making backup matrices, and building walls of stable quantum structure around the void that was always eating things. It was very tiring. Lara could feel her body far away struggling with the neural interface. But she couldn't stop. Not right now. Memory gave her its most valuable treasures while they worked. Not just information, but also experiences. How it felt to see a species travel between stars for the first time. The sound of music made by beings who talk to each other through quantum entanglement. The taste of a fruit from a garden world that had been destroyed by its own sun. Why? As they built in the bypass path, Alara asked. Why go to such great lengths to keep all of this? What are these good things if the species that made them is gone? Because memory throbbed with a quiet intensity. Because existence is precious. Every moment, every experience, every joy and sorrow matters. If no one remembers, if no one knows, what value did any of it have? Alara felt tears on her face from far away. So you're not just a storage space. You're a witness, a proof that they were real, and they are very important. Yes, and now you are a witness, too. The last bypass fell into place. The void was still there, still eating things, but it was now contained, alone. Memory's most important memories were safe, backed up, and protected by layers of extra structure. They had done it. But memory told Alara one more thing as she started to pull her mind back. A vision that wasn't from the past, but from the data it had been gathering for decades. Observations of the stars, readings of the energy, and strange gravitational effects. Something was on its way. A huge wave of cosmic energy, like the one that had hurt memory, but much bigger. It was moving across the galaxy, and memory figured that it would be here in a few months. When it did, it wouldn't just hurt memory, it would completely destroy it, along with any ship, station, or planet that isn't protected, that is in its way. This is why I call for help, not just for me, but for this. Warning, someone must know, someone must survive to remember what was. Lara's mind came back to her body. She gasped and fell back, almost falling before grabbing onto a nearby console to keep herself from falling. Her head was spinning, and her body was shaking from the strain on her nerves. But she was happy. She looked up at the crystal core and said, "We did it!" The crystals had stopped getting bigger. The light was steady and bright. Memory. We really did it. Core stabilized. Degradation halted. Thanks to Alara Chen. Thanks to my friend. Even though tears were streaming down Alara's face, her smile grew wider. Yeah, friends. But the smile went away when she thought about the vision. The wave that is coming. Alara said, we need to tell everyone. All the human colonies and all the species that are still out there. We need to get ready. Agreed. But we need to keep this archive for what comes after. Will you help me with this too? Alara looked around the core chamber at the strange alien technology and the crystalline consciousness that held 50,000 years of memories from the galaxy. At her friend. Yes, she said. Whatever it takes, we're all in this together now.